is
Hello.
hello. This is your host Caleb Leonza and co-host Titus Oldham for League of the Wings. This is the final episode of the League of the Wings for our fantasy league, at least. But we're going to continue
Yeah, we'll
through the
continue
playoffs.
through the playoffs, just, doing the typical prediction stuff we always do and just talking, really.
Yeah,
So
so
they
it's
might
not
be
over
shorter.
yet.
It might be shorter than usual, but who knows? Maybe they won't be. You got your nails painted.
Yeah, I lost a bet to Janet, and so yeah, I had to get my
What was the
nails
bet?
painted. We posted 2 TikToks, and whoever got the most likes won the bet, and I got the least amount of likes.
Oh,
So yeah, I had to paint my nails, which I
was
don't
it just
mind.
one hand or?
Both hands. I honestly don't mind because like I kind of wanted to paint my nails black for a little while just to see what it was like, and yeah, it's
No,
actually
yeah,
not that bad.
it's not that bad. I feel like you're just always conscious of it, which is weird.
Yeah,
Which is why to try stop myself from like picking at them because my nails are usually really short.
yeah,
That's why I'll paint them because then I don't pick them.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm tending to like start to pick off the paint like in my thumb, like it's kind of like
Mm.
half off because it's like I've been like chipping away at the paint. But I've been
No,
trying.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fun too. To chip away at the paint once you feel like they're done for. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
But anyways, that's off topic.
yeah.
Let me
Uh,
pull up some things. I wasn't exactly prepared for this. I won.
yeah, yep. You came in first place.
That's all you really need to know.
I honestly
Caleb
thought,
came in second.
yeah, I honestly thought I could like pull away for a second towards the end of the games. It was like it was still like a long shot, but like if you just didn't score any more
Yeah.
points, thought that I could still maybe like catch up. I think it was at the point where you had 240 points and I had 200 points, and I was like, all right,
Hmm.
like if you just stay around like 245, maybe I can get like that's like a reasonable to come back because I still had 2 players to come in. I had Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas. I was like, all right, maybe they can both like score 20 points. And then like before I know it, like your entire like roster blew up and then like you pulled away so fast.
Yeah, so during the 1 o'clock games, I was convinced that it was over and that you would beat me somehow because you had a really strong start
Hmm.
with Miles Gaskin and David Montgomery, who had two great running games the past week. Miles Gaskin, I would say, was probably the only highlight of that entire Miami offense that sadly does not make the playoffs. David Montgomery was a beast, as he has been this late stretch of the year, and maybe he might make a surprise with the when it comes to the Saints and cause an upset because of it. Who else did you have? Jarvis Landry also did pretty decent.
And then
Greg Zerline, you like last second picked that guy up and he did amazing. So good job there.
thank you. So yeah, I at that point too, I was like, maybe I have a chance too. I just need like my other players to stay consistent as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then 4 o'clock games, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, like, how they have been this later stretch. They haven't been great. Oh yeah, Buccaneers defense also was like whack. Like
Yeah,
they let up way too much to Atlanta. And
yeah,
Atlanta, this later stretch of the season has been like really good actually, like on both sides. Like their defense has been surprising compared to how they started off the season. I'm not going to say that like every position group is like where it needs to be. Like maybe offensive line, running game could definitely be better. But those are easy things to patch up in the offseason, I think. On my side, it was during the 1 o'clock games though. I think I had Calvin Ridley, who wasn't catching balls. George Kittle, who just didn't.
I think
Who else?
Young Poe cool too. I think you had.
Yeah, he did okay. I
Yeah,
like no one did like bad.
yeah.
They just did okay. And then
Diggs too, I
Chris
think.
Carson, oh my gosh, I've messed up so bad, dude. So for the flex spot, I was kind of getting like antsy and like not sure if I should keep T.Y. Hilton in or not because I already had Colts defense and Jonathan Taylor, and I was like, well, if Jonathan Taylor's going to pop off, which I knew he was, and he did, and record-breaking performance from him. I was like, maybe I shouldn't put T.Y. Hilton. So I put in Chris Carson, who did terrible, and T.Y. Hilton ended up with the first touchdown of the whole game. So I was like, well, shit. This is going to go terribly for me. Like, Jonathan Taylor was already off to a great start, but he didn't get his touchdown. And I was like, man, what if he just doesn't get a touchdown the rest of the game? Luckily, he got 2 eventually.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake was putting in Chris Carson over Tyler Lockett, which made me win the bet that we had that he would eventually get 25 plus fantasy points again by the end of the season. And the last week eligible, he was able to do it. So
yeah, I was surprised you didn't keep Tyler Lockett in because like it was the last week of the bet, and I thought it was like.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the bet, honestly. And if you look at his last 5 games, 3 catches, 6 catches, 5 catches, 4 catches, 3 catches, which like he's the guy on the team that is supposed to get the majority of the catches, whereas Metcalf is supposed to get the majority of the yardage, like yard after catch or just the deep ball, stuff like that. So the fact that he had only like 3 to 5 catches for the past 5 weeks was really bad, and not entirely his fault. Russell Wilson hasn't playing up to his typical standard. It was just like I felt like there's no reason based off of his recent performance why I should put him in, especially against a really great defense in San Francisco. He managed to do just what he was supposed to do: 12 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was an amazing game from him. 33 fantasy points in our point per reception league. So there's that.
And then Jonathan Taylor went off. He had like what I think it was like 100 yards in the first quarter. I was looking at that and I was just like, dang, he's just gonna go off, especially thanks to Jags, because if
he was the majority of the yards in our first opening drive. He had a 1 breakout run that was like a 50-yarder, and then we kept trying to rush him at the goal line just because we kept trying to feed him on that one drive. But Jaguars defense managed to like hold there, and so we're like, okay, we have to work the passing game in order to allow ourselves to keep rushing later. We have to show that we have an attack on both sides. That way they're not just blitzing us the entire time. And so the touchdown to T.Y. Hilton was really good to start the game, because if it did just start with Jonathan Taylor, I'm not sure if he would have gotten as many yards as he did.
Yeah.
We were able to show that we had a balance between passing and rushing. Whereas against the Steelers, they called out every time we were rushing, and our passing game was, doing okay, but it wasn't enough to like get it to work. And so both sides weren't working. There wasn't a balance anymore against the Steelers. So we fixed that mistake with the Jaguars, and we're able to rush Taylor through all 4 quarters effectively. And that's why he ended up with 253 yards.
Jonathan Taylor's like what, since week 13, so like 2, 3, 4 last 5 games he's just went off. He has like eclipsed 7 touchdowns against the Jags, like you said, 30 carries, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he had a reception, but it was only for a yard, but still 38 fantasy points, and it's crazy. But it's crazy how many 200-yard rushers we had this year. I feel like we had like a crap ton.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry had
he ended up 3rd in all overall.
Yeah. I saw that. That was like, dang.
He entered the week like 9th or 10th, and which is just like whatever. He's not going to end up getting it. But because he had so many yards this week and everyone else just had like an average amount, he managed to surpass everyone and make it all the way to 3rd. And so he was only behind Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, of course. Derrick Henry also had an amazing game. He reached his 2,000-yard mark, which, is MVP worthy, I'd say. If it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen, I'd say he'd definitely be MVP. If it was between Patrick Mahomes and Derrick Henry, I'd say Derrick Henry. That's how good he has been this season, I'd say.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that he would get anywhere at the beginning of this season because he had a few bad games, but later down the stretch, he just turned it on. The record for most rushing yards in a season is 2,105. I thought it was like, I knew it was over 2,000, but I thought it was less than that. Because I remember Adrian Peterson being like 8 yards away from breaking the rushing record. So it's crazy to have over 2,000 rushing yards. And that's I think the Titans' second to over 2,000-yard rusher in the last like decade, because Chris Johnson, or maybe decade and a half.
Yeah, they've had amazing running backs.
Chris Johnson had over 2,000.
I think I would say the AFC South in general has had amazing running backs. I don't know, like maybe Texans are a bit misrepresented when it comes to running backs. But Colts with like Adrian James, Marshall Faulk, and then Chris Johnson with Titans, and all of them. Jaguars also had Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah,
So
I guess Adrian Foster for Texans. Good running back.
that's true. Yeah.
Um,
AFC South has been amazing when it comes to running backs, and then like Peyton Manning would come in with his passing game, and it was like no other AFC South team could keep up for a long time. So
yeah, but then like your entire roster did really well. Not your entire roster, like you said with Ridley and Kittle, but Aaron Rodgers had a great game. Josh Jacobs had a great game with 2 touchdowns.
yeah.
So that's what put you over the top. And
Yeah, Josh Jacobs was a late thing because he was not getting the amount of carries he needed to in the beginning of the game. And then I started cheering for Denver because like Trey thought they were going to win and all of that. I was like, oh, I'm excited. And then all of a sudden Josh Jacobs popped off and I was like, I felt bad. I was like, I'm already winning the championship. I don't need this job. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers did great. Definitely a way to top off his MVP season with 4 touchdowns, 240 yards. 79% passing. Nearly as good as his Titans performance, honestly. Because against the Titans, he had 84% passing, which is like insane.
that's crazy. That's like unheard of.
The only flaw in that game was that he did throw an interception, though.
But that didn't really affect his fantasy points that much. But Josh Jacobs, he had 15 carries, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, even Rodgers a little bit blew up towards the end. I thought maybe I had like a small chance if like you didn't score.
Yeah.
They weren't scoring until like the 4th quarter or towards the end of the 4th quarter. So I was like, maybe I have a slight chance. But my roster just flopped like it usually does. Or not usually, but just flopped with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. Russell Wilson only had 181 passing yards, 28 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and DK Metcalf, I think a couple receptions. But that Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf have been the downfall of my fantasy team this entire year. So I think I've relied too heavily on them, and yeah, just not getting the amount of points that I needed.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say. So first of all, as far as this game is concerned, I'm very lucky that I stuck with Aaron Rodgers all through playoffs because I did say I would put in Kyler Murray at least half of the games this playoffs. I just ended up changing my mind every week and being like, no, I'll keep Aaron Rodgers in. It's his MVP season. Even though Kyler Murray has the potential to eclipse his, points because he's more of a rushing quarterback. I still feel like, he's inconsistent and all that. So I was like, stick with what's been working. And especially this game, Kyler Murray got injured. He was already injured going to play the game. And then he came in, first drive, he gets injured even more. And so he didn't come in until later. And he only had 3 fantasy points. So I was lucky there to stick with old reliable and Aaron Rodgers. And even though I think Kyler Murray will, have a better season next season, I think it was a smart decision. Also, in retrospect, I should have put Stephon Diggs out because I should have known that they were going to bench their at least halfway through the game. I guess I sort of thought that maybe it would be a closer game than, everyone thought, and that Bills would be wanting to fight for the second seed through all 4 quarters, but because it was such a blowout through the first 2 quarters, they ended up benching their starters into the second half. So Stephon Diggs could have he was on pace to get like 28 fantasy points if he played the second half. On paper, it wasn't a bad idea, but Tyler Lockett still would have been like the smarter choice, I think.
Yeah.
Especially because Keenan Allen was injured, and I knew John Taylor was going to probably be the focus of the offense rather than T.Y. Hilton. So,
and then that would make
also, I just
300.
Wait, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that would make you eclipse 300 points as well.
Yeah, I did that. I did that last week, semifinals. So I think that's fine. I think getting 300, that's averaging 150 both weeks. That's pretty solid. I was going to say I'm pretty proud of myself for overcoming the adversity of losing 2 of my top 3 picks very early in the season in Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. And even though I stood by them when they wouldn't end up coming back for a very long time. Well, George Kittle did eventually come back. McCaffrey did not, even though they hinted at him coming back for like 8 weeks straight, and then it never happened, which was really lame. I'm proud of myself for being able to do the right trades and find good waiver people. And Jonathan Taylor was not a waiver guy, by the way. I actually drafted him,
Really?
which I'm pretty proud of.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I drafted him really late in the draft. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for that. Yep, that's all I have to say.
I was feeling like super confident at the beginning of the season because like I was starting 3-0, and Russell Wilson was on the pace for MVP, so I was like feeling confident and stuff. And I think that was my kryptonite because I didn't make any trades or any waiver claims until like half of the season, or until like
Yeah.
last half. So I think that might have been my downfall. I think Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, sticking with them was the wrong decision. I should have picked up a different QB. I did with Jalen Hurts, but I just didn't put Jalen Hurts in because like they didn't have anything to play off or play for. My rest of my roster, Antonio Gibson, he didn't do good this last week. He only had 75 yards, a reception, and for 6 yards for 9 points. And then the Bucks defense, like you said earlier, had 4 points, which was a lot better decision than putting in the Dolphins defense, because the Dolphins defense had -5 points, and that's a 9-point better difference. But I should have picked up a different defense as well. Not much I could have done either, unless if I like picked up some waiver claims, because there was a couple players that just boomed off of waivers that would have allowed me to come close to winning or make it more of a matchup. But you won 289.63 to 239.81, making you the winner of the league.
Yeah, also shout outs to Sophia's Esposito Fries for getting bronze medal, 3rd place over the regular season champion in, regular season record and points scored over Compton Crip Trip. So he ended up 4th place, which was quite the upset back to back. She managed to do it without Cooper Kupp or Dalvin Cook even playing in the last week. So she managed to accumulate 133 points without them, despite those amount being projected now only 96. Josh Allen only played the first half as well, who she started. So it all came down to Austin Eckler, who had an average game, Chris Godwin, who did amazing against Atlanta. Let's see exactly what he got. 2 touchdowns off of 5 receptions and 133 yards. Definitely a deep ball guy there. Darren Waller also had an amazing game. He's come out of the tight end group looking really hot. Like obviously Kelsey is number 1, but because Kittle has been out, there's been like this debate like, oh, who's number 2? And Darren Waller has become the clear favorite in that regard. So yeah, AFC is stacked when it comes to tight ends, I would say. Him, Hunter Henry, and all of them.
Yeah.
And the Rams defense against Arizona just completely destroyed Arizona's backup quarterback. An interception, 4 sacks, 1 safety, 1 block, and only 7 points allowed. Just like basically something on every stat line. So
and there on Brendan's side, I don't even think he could have put in anybody to like replace his players. Maybe
he did fine, honestly. Well, not fine, but like
Jared Cook is like the only player that I would replace. But even then, that's iffy because like Mark Andrews is definitely a better tight end than Jared Cook. I would put Mark Andrews over Jared Cook any day. But I don't think Sophia was paying attention to her side because Dalvin Cook was out for like early in that week too. I don't know about Cooper Kupp, but Dalvin Cook was definitely out earlier in that week.
I don't think Brendan would have had much of a chance. Well, actually, he would have had a chance against you if he were to face you in the playoff, in the championship. But what I'm trying to say is because he had players that would ended up getting benched week 17, it definitely put him in the disadvantage because that is a part of the meta as well. Like if you expect yourself to make the championship, you have to also be prepared for which players will, rest week 17. And he had Alvin Kamara out, Tyreek Hill out. James Robinson for some reason wasn't playing. I think that may have been an injury though. Eric Ebron for Pittsburgh was out.
We don't have to talk too much about Licia and Trey's, but
Yeah, I don't think either of them were paying attention. Although Trey did kind of low-key pop off, despite starting Patrick Mahomes, who was clearly resting this week, because he had Derrick Henry, who he was willing to trade at some point
yeah,
mid-season. Remember that? He's like, I just want someone who's consistently getting points, because apparently his only breakout game was against Houston with 41.
yeah.
And he also had Minnesota 27, but definitely towards the later in the season was he really starting to consistently having those breakout games. So if he traded him away, oh my god.
I feel so
I would if Derrick Henry. Wait, go.
Oh, that was kind of a connection issue. That was like lagging a little bit, but I was just saying that was like so stupid on my part because like I was gonna trade James Conner for Derrick Henry, and I don't know why I didn't do that. But like,
dude, he traded Kelsey and Diggs to me.
yeah, I don't know why he did that either.
The receiving yard leaders in both of their groups. But I give him Patrick Mahomes, so
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of a fair trade, but still.
Well, I mean, considering at the time Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen weren't exactly connecting well because Stephon Diggs was new. I mean, Travis Kelce was doing okay, I guess, but Stephon Diggs definitely didn't do like super amazing till later in the season. Because like I traded Patrick Mahomes away early because I knew that would come to my advantage if I like, you know, when Patrick Mahomes had his first hot game, I was going to trade him away. And because I feel like, you know, quarterbacks are rarely like having those breakout games, and you can find a pretty consistent one for like a pretty, you know, decent value. And I ended up getting Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray through trades, so like I did pretty good there. So yeah, I also gave him someone else. Oh, I gave him Todd Gurley, who had a really hot game as well, and then got basically benched and replaced by the Atlanta Falcons later in the season. So his career is basically a backup running back now, despite coming into the league. He wasn't rookie of the year, was he? He was something though.
Wait, here, I'll look it up.
I'm pretty sure he was like rushing yards leader in his rookie season though. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Something like that. The Rams Super Bowl run, he was like really hot and everyone was like, this might be the best running back in the league, blah, blah, blah. And now he's the backup running back on a team that can barely even rush the ball in general, which is really sad.
He was named Offensive Rookie of the Year.
He was? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's solely because of his knees and his having arthritis in his
yeah, for sure, yeah.
But
injury,
if he didn't have arthritis in his knees, I think he would have stayed on the Rams and probably stayed with that momentum of like being one of the best running backs in the league. And I think he could probably be a valid like Hall of Famer like down the line, in 10 years if he would have kept that pace. But just his knees caught up to him and it was bad.
Trey actually drafted very, very well, I would say. It's just, wait, let me actually go to where is the draft recap, because looking back, his draft was really good. He just got a bit too lenient in trades, I would say. But let's see. He drafted who we're pretty sure is going to be offensive player of the year in Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson as quarterback, which is pretty decent. Like obviously he didn't have his greatest season as last season, but still. DeAndre Hopkins, who is like a top 2 wide receiver in my opinion. Travis Kelce, who would end up being the receiving yard leader of the tight ends, and even just like a top 5 receiving yard getter in general. Deshaun Watson, the passing yard leader. Stephon Diggs, the receiving yard leader. Aaron Rodgers, MVP, who we got in the which round? 13th round. David Montgomery, and like a bunch of like good fill-ins as well. So like he drafted very well. He just traded away David Montgomery, Aaron Rodgers, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce. He traded all those guys away. He probably, like, towards the end of the season, could have made a run for the playoffs like he was hoping to do.
I think another downfall is that he was too lenient on Broncos players as well, as we stated, like,
that's true.
every week. I mean,
which, like, I have my Colts players, you have your Eagles players, but, like, we would never, like, just all in every week with them, you know?
Yeah.
And to be fair, my Colts players, like, outperformed his Broncos players this year.
We have a couple, like I have a couple Eagles players. You have like maybe three or four Colts players.
I had 4 at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like you were putting them, or like you and I were putting all of the Eagles and all of the Colts in at the time. But on average, Trey was putting 4 or 5 Bronco players in every single week, like week in and week out.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, like Melvin Gordon and Jerry Jeudy can have their games, like pop off games, but they're not consistent whatsoever. Brandon McManus is probably the only Bronco player that I would regularly keep into my lineup. And even
Mhm.
then, he didn't like have like a great year at all.
Mhm.
So not much
I
to
mean, kickers are just kickers. They're easily replaceable.
yeah.
I feel like.
There's not much to say other than what we said, other than Cam Newton popped off. Surprisingly, he had 38 points, which was shocked me, but he had 242 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, and then 11 carries for
I'm
7.
not surprised. Listen, I hate Cam Newton as much as any Alabama fan would. But I mean, you can't deny, like, this guy is an MVP at his best. And this is him when he knows that his job is on the line. He probably already knows that he's not going to be on the Patriots next year. And so he knows that he has to perform in a way that will secure himself a job on some other team. Because with as deep as the draft class is going to be this next year, and all the other like quarterbacks names that are roaming through everyone's minds in free agency and trades, Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford, blah blah blah, he knows that like his time as a starting quarterback might be up. So if he didn't have a great game to end the season, like, it would have been his demise for sure. I don't know if his good game will necessarily warrant him a starting spot on any team next year, just because of all the factors I stated. But it was a make or break moment for him, and he made the most of it. So
Yeah, but again, it was against the Jets of all teams. But
Jets have been great the past 3 weeks.
that is true.
Jets defense is probably their best part of their team as well compared to their
Yeah,
offense. So.
that is true.
Also, I would like to say that Half Lesbian Thespians probably had the worst luck drafting, not because the people she drafted are bad, but because of the injuries that they would end up getting. So
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley was her round one. She ended up getting Devontae Adams round 2, which was very smart. Definitely good pick.
Mhm.
Julio Jones, who was out most of the season. Kenyon Drake was out various points of the season. He ended up coming back though. Nick Chubb out various points of the season, ended up coming back. Joe Mixon, he was out after week 6 against Indianapolis and didn't come back. Who else? She ended up trading Kyler Murray away to me. But Dak Prescott was her round 11. She probably had the best 2 quarterbacks to start the season in Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. Just think of the way they started the season, really high in fantasy points. And then Dak Prescott got injured. I traded Kyler Murray for Cam Newton. So yeah, she had the worst luck with injuries. So I feel bad. I feel like she could do better next year if she I don't know. Does she keep Saquon Barkley on her roster?
I would for next year.
She didn't keep him on her roster, so she can't use him as a keeper.
Wait, when is that time up?
Saquon Barkley is going to be available. What?
Wait, when is that? Like, can I still like lock in players for next year? Or is that time up? Is that like time up?
Oh yeah, we have until like an hour before the next draft, so like months.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that she didn't have Saquon Barkley on her roster to be able to use him as a keeper. So this is actually an interesting thing we can do. We can go on each team and like discuss who should be the keepers.
Yeah, we can do that after the season. That'll be like a fun, like after the Super Bowl or after a thing to do. Like a little.
Yeah, I agree.
Like a little 10-minute thing. But we don't have to discuss much more of Lucia's and Trey's. I just want to discuss like a couple.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Trey ended up with 5th. She ended up with 6th. Through a very unlucky first season where she doesn't even understand football in general. So
Yeah.
hopefully next year will be better.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it will. I think she like drafted smartly, like you said. It's just very bad luck.
Mhm.
Just I want to
Well,
like.
it wasn't really her drafting. It was an auto draft, by the way.
Oh, that
Hers
is.
was.
I thought she picked players.
No, she was auto draft.
Oh, okay.
It was
But
only us 4 guys who were drafting in real time, and Sophie put in player ahead of time that could like prioritize on the auto draft. So it was like half auto draft basically.
okay.
Alicia went full auto draft, so yeah.
Okay. I thought she had a couple players that she wanted.
I don't think so.
But I just wanted to pinpoint like a couple of players more on their roster that like popped off. I'll go through quick, but like AJ Brown on their benches. On their benches, AJ Brown, Jerry Judy popped off. Jerry Judy had 5 receptions, 140 yards, a touchdown, and then AJ Brown had 10 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown. It's crazy because they both had, or the Titans had 30 or 2 30+ players in fantasy, which is crazy. They probably, I don't know if they had more with Tannehill or not, but it's crazy to have 2 30+ players on a singular team. And then Melvin Gordon did really well as well. 93 yards, a touchdown, and then 4 receptions for 17 yards, which Trey's players actually popped off towards the end, way too late to actually mean anything. So
Right. Yeah.
and then I guess Marcus Brown popped off a little bit. He had 5 receptions, 41 yards for 2 touchdowns. He ended the season relatively well, not like the best, but better than most.
Right.
So that's all I gotta say.
All right. So let's go to predictions. You want to know what your record was in the season?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me do some calculations. So week 17, though, you got 12-4.
That's pretty good.
12 out of 16 right, which secured your win, definitely. Yeah, that is pretty good. Better than most weeks, I would say we did. So you had this well for sure. 171 divided by 256. You got 171 out of 256 right, which is what is the percentage? 66.8. 66.8%. So more than 2/3 of the games, right?
I'm actually
It's
proud of
pretty good.
myself. I usually do bad in predictions, but I'm proud that I'm proud I actually did that.
Every game of the season, dude. We
Yeah.
predicted every single one.
That's pretty crazy. That's the first time I did that.
Let's go through each of the final games. Tampa Bay versus Atlanta, 44-27. You got that right. Giants 23-19. Dallas 19. Everyone had Dallas as the favorite just because Giants were coming off really weak this like December, January part of the season. But Giants managed to pull off the win. Not that it really mattered much.
I'm so happy the Giants won though, because it like relieved some of my stress throughout the end of the week or end of the day. So I'm just relieved that
No, but like imagine if the Cowboys won and we're depending on the Eagles and then Eagles did what they did. It'd be even better, dude.
Yeah, I wouldn't be as mad as I am now that the Eagles tanked the way that they did.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later though. New England 28-14, the Jets. You got that wrong. You had the Jets.
The ones that I did get wrong, I was looking at it. I was kind of mad because I had a chance of actually going like guessing all 16 games correct. And I was like, I could have went undefeated this year or undefeated this week. I don't know. I just was too giddy on some of them.
So Detroit versus Minnesota, where both teams had terrible defenses and pretty decent offenses. So it's a high scoring game. Minnesota beat Detroit by 2 points, 35-37. You got that right. Cleveland beat Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh was sitting out most of their players in general. It was way too close for comfort. So considering how Cleveland's going to be losing some players and coaches to COVID next week and how close it was already between the bench people for Pittsburgh, I feel like Pittsburgh has the playoff game pretty solidly, but we'll see. You know, anything can happen. Baltimore beat Cincinnati 38-3 blowout. You got that right. You didn't get right that Miami would make the playoffs with their win over Buffalo. Instead, they lost pretty solidly, 56-26, which is what I needed in order for the Colts to get into the playoffs was Miami to lose. So thank you there. You were right about Seattle beating San Francisco, although it was way too close for comfort again, 26-23. You're wrong about Arizona versus the Rams. Arizona did not make the playoffs, sadly.
That was
Rams
more.
did.
Yeah, that was more of a coin flip in my opinion. I could see it going either way.
Yeah, two backup quarterbacks battling it out. Terrible game, I would say.
Mhm.
18-7. Indianapolis beat Jacksonville 28-14, which is, just enough to make it seem look like a solid win, but the second half was not as solid as like we would want it to be. So
You want to rant about that game at all? Or
no, I feel like both phases were pretty good throughout the whole game. It was just like third quarter and a decent part of the fourth quarter was not doing good. We just like let up way too many plays second half. I felt like both sides did well, offense and defense.
yeah,
I feel like, we worked out the kinks that were not being worked out against Pittsburgh. Obviously, this is a bad team. Like, it's not like the greatest thing, but this is also a team we lost to, and for some reason have lost to many times in the past 5 seasons.
yeah.
Like, just like one of those things, like a divisional, like weird thing.
Mm.
And Philip Rivers put it best. He was just like, sure, it is a bad team and whatnot, but there were a lot of teams with playoff implications going home today, and we're not one of them. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is that we got the win and we get to carry on. So
Damn straight.
that's all that really matters. And he has a chance to finally get his first ring.
I want to be rooting for the Colts since the Eagles aren't in the play or in the Super Bowl.
Oh, dude, I'm so mad, by the way. Washington versus Buccaneers gets the primetime slot.
What?
On Saturday, the 8 o'clock game, whereas Bills Colts is the 1 o'clock game. And so I commented on one of those posts that announced the schedule. I was like, I can't believe Colts are still losing primetime slots to NFC East. I was so mad. I was like, why is this still happening? Yeah.
I don't understand the NFC East at all and why they're so highly praised.
I don't know. I think if Colts beat Bills, we'll have to play the Chiefs because we're the lowest seed in AFC and they're the one with the bye week. So I think Colts Chiefs would definitely be a primetime game, but
Yeah.
who knows? We'll see. You're right about Titans versus Houston. It was a very close game that went to overtime and just such a heartbreaker because Deshaun Watson had an amazing season and Texans organization just kind of failed him. If they can get their shit together, they are dangerous though, just considering how close they made it with the Titans and whatnot.
He was the passing leader for this year, and I feel like Bill O'Brien failed him the most out of anyone. I just feel bad.
Yeah, he like traded all the draft picks away. Like Miami has the 3rd pick in the draft now,
Yeah.
and Houston can't get anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have enough, they just don't have a lot of anything to make trades off of anymore because Bill O'Brien was such a bad general manager.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why JJ Watt supposedly led the player rebellion against them. And so with JJ Watt, his time might be done in Houston. I don't know if he even wants to stay there anymore. But as they left the field against the Titans, he literally went up to Deshaun Watson and was like, I'm sorry we wasted one of your years. JJ Watt told Deshaun Watson that.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. So his contract is pretty big. So by trading him away, they'd probably be saving themselves a lot of money in order to rebuild. So I wouldn't be surprised if JJ Watt is not going to be in Houston next year.
That's crazy. Do you know or have any idea of who you think might pick up JJ Watt?
Who needs an edge rusher? Colts need an edge rusher. Our defense is great, and I don't know if we'd be wanting to spend that much money to upgrade our defense when we have, other problems to fix. We don't have a great edge rusher. In fact, DeForest Buckner led the team in sacks, and he's a defensive tackle. He had the franchise record of sacks by a defensive tackle. If JJ Watt was on the defensive line, it'd be over for everyone. We'd be like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know. I really don't know who really needs an edge rusher. Maybe Cardinals. That'd be cool. He just joins DeAndre Hopkins.
That team would be unstoppable if they had JJ Watt.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I guess that's another episode we can do, just like predicting where free agents or any player could end up in the offseason.
Yeah.
Let's see. Vegas beat Denver. it was a last second game as like all the Raiders games ended up coming to. So I don't know what the issue is over in Las Vegas, but they just make things way too close for comfort. I guess it's defense actually. Blame defense. Chargers beat out Kansas City, which is like whatever, you predicted that. Chiefs had all their starters out, so whatever. Green Bay beat out Chicago solidly. Chicago makes the playoffs anyways at 8-8. New Orleans beats Carolina, you also predicted. That was a blowout, basically, 33-7. And then the last thing you got wrong was Philadelphia beating Washington.
Well, I got one thing. Okay, I may go on a little rant. In fact, I am gonna go on
Go
a
for
little
it.
rant because I didn't cover this in the Eagle video, Eagle reaction video that I uploaded. I just want to put my thoughts into it, but I want to say one quick thing before I start the rant. Is that the NFC conference looks terrible this year. It's like you got the Bears at 8-8, and you got like Washington going in at, I believe, 7.
Oh, yeah.
Comparatively to the AFC, where they got like their wild cards 11-5, like both.
Yeah, Colts has a better record than 3 of the playoff teams. And Colts is the 7th seed. So
Yeah, so like I'm disappointed in the NFC conference on how they performed this year, because usually they do pretty good, but this year they just completely flopped. But for the Eagles, okay. For the Eagles, I didn't cover this because like I did my reactions on right after the game, and I wasn't able to like fully comprehend on how big of like a tank that was by the Eagles, and it wasn't like fully comprehensible of them tanking, because like in the moment I was like, oh yeah, okay, sure, some of but were like super like bad decisions that they were making, but in the end I wanted Washington to like win, and that's what happened. They won, and now we got the 6th pick in the draft instead of the 9th. But just like the disrespect from like Doug Peterson to the players it's so bad, because he was like, it was such an obvious tank, because one, he replaced Nate Sudfelden for Jalen Hurts. He benched Jalen Hurts. I don't know if this was all on Doug Peterson. Like all of the decisions were on Doug Peterson, but the decisions of placing Jalen Hurts and going for it on 4th and 4 at the goal line when you can have an obvious chance of making a field goal, being in the game and not trying, and also the last drive when Washington was going down the field and they had a 4th and 1, and if they made it, they would have iced the game. But if not, then the Eagles would have had a chance to go down the field and win. But the Eagles went offsides. I think that we purposely went offsides to lose the game. Because 2 of our players jumped obviously off sides, and that just sealed the game for Washington. But it was just such a close game where we could have won, but we weren't trying to. And I understand it more if like Washington was blowing us out to like actually start tanking more. But like there's so many other ways that you can tank and not make it as obvious as the Eagles did. And if Doug Peterson hasn't won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, I feel like he would have instantly gotten fired after this year. But the fact that he's won a Super Bowl is like barely keeping him in to the Eagles organization. Bless you. But I think the Eagles are going to give him another chance in the organization, which is so sad, because I would rather pick Carson Wentz to stay in the organization rather than Doug Peterson, because Carson Wentz is such a good QB. But Zach Ertz, Carson Wentz, and Jason Kelsey are like the top 3 main guys, are probably all going to be gone next year, and that's how like they end their career in Philadelphia. It's like so disappointing. And like
yeah.
Zach Ertz just like bawled in his press conference, and it's like he said that he appreciates like the city of Philadelphia so much. And Carson Wentz, him and Jason Kelsey stayed an hour after the game ended on the field just soaking it in.
Yeah,
And it
till
was
1
just,
a.m.
yeah, and it was just like so sad to see that, because it's like so disrespectful to the players to tank that badly, especially like your major guys. It's going to be like their last game on that like franchise, and just to end it like that is so bad. And I feel so sad for the players, especially for Zach Ertz and Carson Wentz. It's just that's going to be like their last game as an Eagle, and they like long-term Eagles. Zach Ertz has been on the Eagles for 8 years. Carson Wentz 5, 6 years, and they've done like so much for this organization, and then just like be treated like crap like that. It's just sad.
Right. I have Couple of things I want to say about that game. First of all, I don't think taking was worth it in the long run. I
Yeah.
feel like the difference between a sixth and a ninth draft pick is really not as big as people make it out to be. I feel like you can accomplish just the same amount with either pick, and especially if you're just good with your draft capital and whatnot. Like if you have a good general manager, you can do just as much with your ninth pick because like it's not a top 3, top 5 pick,
Yeah.
right? Where you're like, oh, maybe we can get one of these great generational guys coming in. And I feel like if you're around the 6 to 10 range, you're going to get someone good regardless. I just don't feel like there's much of a difference between the 6th and the ninth. So the purpose for actually tanking, I can't understand. Maybe Eagles got paid off by the NFL because NFL has been milking this whole Washington storyline all season between Alex Smith's comeback and Ron Rivera getting cancer and them not even having a team name in general. Like it's just a huge like narrative. You
Yeah.
know, there could be a conspiracy theory there that Eagles got paid off for
Yeah.
it. Or maybe even Doug Peterson himself just has a soft spot for those sort of things. You never know. Other than that, I just feel like there's a weird, just like thing going on in Philadelphia that sort of resembles what we've been seeing from New York Jets recently.
Mhm.
Is that their organization and the players just have this weird disconnect where the players don't even know what they're like doing there anymore. So it started with like Jamal Adams this offseason just went to Seattle, and then Le'Veon Bell was like, whoa, why'd he do that? And then halfway through the season, Le'Veon Bell realized like, oh, this team sucks, and
Yeah.
he eventually got traded away to Kansas City. And a bunch of other teams got, I mean, a bunch of other players got waived off the Jets because they just had this disconnect with organization. Like organization was doing so bad, and they were refusing to fire Adam Gase until like the end of the season, which he should have gotten fired a long time ago. And you know they have a young quarterback in Sam Darnold who could be a generational talent that they've just been wasting his years, just ruining his confidence and everything. And it's just like really sad. And it's just like what I'm saying from the Eagles right now. They're pushing away Carson Wentz, a young guy who has a lot of promise, and possibly they may be even doing that with Jalen Hurts, Zach Ertz, Jason Kelsey, Pro Bowl guys that like are suddenly getting pushed away by the organization after putting like all their effort into it and just loving the city of Philadelphia. I don't know like what the strategy is with as far as Howie Roseman goes. Like, what is he doing as a general manager that makes him feel like this is the right move to just like kind of push away these talents that are obviously putting their all into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like if he's like hoping to like for a rebuild or something. I don't know. It's just a very weird thing happening.
Yeah, I'm going to make like a long video after the end of the season or whatever. I'm going to put like a lot of effort into it. It's just I'm going to do a deep dive of the last 4 years from since Doug Pearson entered Philadelphia until now, and just like going ins and outs of it because there's like so much to uncover and stuff. And Howie Rose, like if you look at the most recent draft picks in the past couple of years by Howie Roseman, they're like all flops and like just like not good draft picks.
Yeah.
Only like reasonably good draft pick in the last like five 4 or 5 years is Miles Sanders and Carson Wentz. But it's just like Howie Roseman not being able to draft and not being able to pick up new guys to like surround Carson Wentz with talent and stuff. And there's just like so much to uncover. Like I agree with you, like the six picks is not that much different from the ninth. And the reason why I wanted the Eagles to lose is because I wanted the sixth pick to I didn't want them to like tank that much where they were like
Right.
forcing to lose. Like I wanted them to lose, but not like I didn't want them to obviously tank and or did what they did. Like if they had a chance to win, I wanted them to win, but I would rather them lose than not. But like it's just it disappoints me as a fan to like see the mismanagement of the players from the organization themselves.
Yeah, I was gonna say like as much as people hate on like the draft picks, I feel like that could also be an organizational thing where the Eagles may just not know how to develop young players.
Yeah.
that could also be an issue where, like, you know, maybe they saw potential in these players, but they just don't know how to get that, you know, potential realized. Possibility. But it could also just be like bad at drafting. I agree with that too. Yeah, I just feel like they're wasting a lot of players' time right now.
Yeah.
Like players that are clearly putting their all into it because they have like a lot of like star players.
Yeah.
Like Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay
Mhm.
on the defensive side. Like they are, you know, Darius Slay people say is like one of the best quarterbacks in the game.
Yeah.
But like when you watch this defense this year, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the team has it worked out to where they are using them to their advantage almost.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Weird, because like I've seen like a bunch of things where it's like we had the opportunity to draft like DK Metcalf, we had the opportunity to draft Justin Jefferson, we had like opportunities to draft like all these like young receivers and or like other positions, but we didn't. I think Jeremy Chin as well. I think that's the guy. But
Yeah.
I was thinking like even if we drafted those like elite talents or like talents that are proving themselves in the NFL, I don't even know if we were able to like utilize them in the way that they meant to
Exactly.
be and develop them. Because I was like thinking, even if we got like a DK Metcalf or a Jeremy Chin, would we even actually use their talent, or would they be wasted on Rager and or Darius Slay, like you said? Because
Yeah, think about where these receivers ended up as well. DK Metcalf ended up going to Seahawks, who, you know, that receiver group is really good, as you can see from Tyler Lockett and all of them. And then when you look at Justin Jefferson, that's the same place where you have Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs used to be.
Mhm.
And so obviously these teams are good at developing their receiver, not just for their star players, but for their depth. And so
Yeah.
I'd like exactly like who's to say that like even if they were to make it to the Eagles, if they would have been utilized the right way.
I'm just sad as a fan to see like our organization going this way. That's all I have to say for now. I'm going to make a more in-depth video later on in the season, like I said, because I just want to go more in depth into it because I just find it interesting to see like how the organization like handled certain situations and stuff. And it's just eye-opening after this game to to the league, especially since it was a prime time game and it was the last game of the season. It was just an eye opener to everyone else. As an Eagles fan, I've been paying attention to it more because like I've been watching each and every game, and it was just
Yeah.
disappointing. But yeah, we can move on to the predictions for the wild card.
Wild card weekend, super wild card weekend, my bad. That's the way they're branding it, because an extra game in each conference will be played due to the expansion of the playoffs. By the way, I heard that they might be expanding the regular season to 17 games next season.
Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't realize until like people were talking about the Colts' upcoming schedule next season, which like I don't like that we made the playoffs and a lot of the Colts fans are already talking about the next season schedule. Like let's focus on right now because like let's not count us out, you know. Yeah, people are saying that there's a possibility that a 17th game could be voted in. So that'd be pretty interesting to see how that plays out with the new expanded playoff and like what would the 17th game even be? There's the format of have to play each division twice, and then a whole division in the NFC and a whole other division in the AFC, and then an extra AFC game. So what would be the 17th game? Would it be another AFC game? I mean, another interconference game or another out of conference game? I'm not sure. So
Yeah, that would be interesting. I feel like it would be more conference than anything because like
right.
the out of conference is by division, so you like play each division every 4 years. So I feel like it would be more lenient to the conference and interconference. But yeah, I
Probably.
feel like that'd be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, so that's a bit off topic. Let's get into wild card weekend. So this is how we're going to do predictions, Caleb. We are going to not only predict the winner of each game, and if we do predict them, we will get 10 points. So it's a point-based system rather than just like, oh, we got it right. Here's the percentage of what's right. You know, it's a point-based system, and we will get 5 points each if we guess the final score of one of the team's games. So like, let's say I predict between the Seahawks and the Rams that Seahawks will win 24 and then Rams will get 17. Okay. If I'm right that the Seahawks win, I get 10 points. If I'm wrong about the Seahawks final score of 24, then I don't get any points. I mean, I don't get those 5 points. I'll still have the 10 points. But if I'm right that Rams ended up with 17 points, then I will still get those 5 points, meaning that I end up with 15 points. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Wait, so we're only predicting the score of one team, or are we going to protect each?
Yeah, we're gonna predict the final score between both teams.
Okay.
And even if like our winner is wrong, we
Mhm.
can still get points based off of the team's final score.
Okay.
So yeah, Bills are the 2nd seed facing the Colts, the 7th seed. The Bills will be playing at home. This is the first time they're in the playoffs in a long time with a home field advantage. Even the governor will be there.
Oh,
He
wow.
allowed Buffalo to have attendance just because they made the playoffs, which is pretty cool, I
Yeah.
would say. And Frank Reich actually is a home hero to the Buffalo after being quarterback for the Buffalo and managing to make a playoff comeback for them. And so it's a bit of a weird clash because Frank Reich is usually a Buffalo fan, and he was this past week.
Mm-hmm.
Since we needed Buffalo to beat Miami to make the playoffs, he will be prepping the Colts to face them with all they've got. Bills are red hot to end the season, by the way. Colts, not so much. They won 4 of their last 5, but not all like great victories, I would say. Yeah, who you have?
I'm going to be rooting for the Colts, but I'm going to say that the Bills are going to take this one solely because of exactly what you just said. The Bills have been playing a lot better the last down the stretch comparatively to the Colts, and I hope I'm proven wrong on this because I want the Colts to win this game because I like the Colts and you're a fan of the Colts, and I want the Colts to win. But I feel like the Bills have a better chance of winning this. And I say it's going to be a close game, but I say Bills 30, Colts 24.
Ooh, all right. So I think this is an interesting matchup because so far this season, we've seen kind of the highlights of the team being Bills, their offense, Josh Allen to Diggs, and how that offense has just completely thrived. Him having an MVP season, Josh Allen. And then for the Colts, the defense has been the highlight because, they just got DeForest Buckner in there. And, there's a point where we thought we could have the defensive rookie of the year in Julian Blackmon. And obviously you have Darius Leonard, Justin Houston, all of these like big time guys, right? But I think the real key to this matchup will be the other side of the ball, which is Bills defense against the Colts offense, because Colts offense has kind of been outperforming the Colts defense at the end of the season. Philip Rivers has been pretty consistent. T.Y. Hilton has finally been, living up to his usual standard. Jonathan Taylor is finally red hot. Even Nyheim Hines has been doing really great, despite Jonathan Taylor overshadowing him. Obviously, we have an amazing offensive line. I feel like we would just surprise the Bills defense in that way. I don't know if the Bills defense are really prepared for that, because if we really like nail down the balance between the rush and the pass, because they're probably going to be focusing on Jonathan Taylor more than anything else. If we can really balance out the passing game as well, I feel like we could become very overwhelming for the Bills. But at the same time, same thing could be said about the Bills against the Colts defense. But I just feel like the Colts defense has the clutch factor that the Bills defense doesn't have.
Yeah.
Just think about Arizona versus the Bills. Bills couldn't clutch that out, Bills should have won that game realistically. But Colts defense has clutched out like 5 games. Both their Houston games came down to a clutch defensive play. Against the Bengals, there was one. Against the Bears, there was one. Against Packers, there was one. And so I feel like that's what the matchup will depend on, is that the Colts defense will have to come up with a clutch play late in the game in order to seal it. That's why I have the Colts, just because I feel like we have this underdog mentality, which I think the Colts thrive off of. I feel like when we enter a game as the favorites, we don't usually do well. Like we entered the Steelers games as favorites and we slipped really hard last half. We just got too comfortable. And so I think we'll do really well. And so I agree it'll be close though. And it will be Colts 27, Bills 24.
Oh, wow. That is super close. The only way that I see the Colts winning is, I guess 2 ways is the defense, like you said, but staying on the field and limiting Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to actually do their stuff, limiting the time for them. If the Colts can utilize Jonathan Taylor and Akeem Hines to run down that clock, with that duo, then I can see the Colts winning to running out the clock more. But I think that's like the only way that I see them winning, because I feel like the Colts defense can definitely make a few stops where it allows the Colts defense to go down the field and score some points.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it is still a game I'm nervous about, but I have faith in the Colts in general. Seahawks Rams is the next game on Saturday. Seahawks 3rd seed, not been looking great. Rams 6th seed, also I wouldn't say not looking great, but both defenses I would say have been really great, whereas the offenses have been slacking. So I would say this comes down to a low scoring sort of game. My prediction is that Seahawks will come up with the victory just because I feel like they have a bit more offensive power to, get it done despite the defense it being a defensive battle. Final score 23-14. That's what I'm going with.
That's a little bit of a blowout considering their defenses.
It's only a 9-point difference.
I'm going to say the Seahawks as well, and I agree that this is going to be a close game. Not many points are going to be scored, but I feel like this is more of probably the most coin flip game we're going to see this wild card weekend. And my score is going to be...
Oh my gosh. Trump protesters storm U.S. Capitol. They managed to get in the building, Caleb.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They locked down all the senators.
Oh my gosh. Wait, Caleb, go to your TV. Look this up, dude.
I don't know if I'll get it. Wait, what channel is it on?
Any news? CNN. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So Congress was like, oh wait, Caleb.
I'm still here.
So Congress was like, I don't know what they're doing. They're counting the vote or like doing something to like secure Biden's win in Capitol Hill, and somehow Trump supporters got in.
Really?
That's what it looks like. And the DC mayor is now ordering a 6 p.m. curfew. They're just trying to undermine the result of the election, I guess. And like, wow, this is crazy.
Is it like a lot of people?
Yeah, there's a lot of people outside, but I don't know if they have much footage of like what's actually going inside the building.
Mm-hmm.
Capitol Police asking for additional law enforcement help. Apparently, they're not able to like continue with their, I don't know, the Congress procedure because there's literal people in the building trying to cause mayhem.
Yeah.
How did they get in? That's crazy. Is there like footage online?
Wait, I have it up now. Wait, so they got like into the...
Yeah, they got in the building.
I
And they
wouldn't
got into Capitol Hill.
I wouldn't be surprised if like that's like federal charges that they get if they get arrested and stuff. I don't... That's crazy.
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
No one's talking about it on Twitter. It doesn't seem like.
It probably just happened.
Oh wait, I found someone. Everything in Senate just stopped after an aide just whispered protesters are in the building. Oh, apparently there's live footage online of what happened. Wow, everyone just got up and got out as soon as they found out protesters were in there. All right, I'm gonna keep this on, but low volume while we continue, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry about that interruption.
It's all right. It's important news.
Yes, it
It's
is.
happening around the world or in the US. Well, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But that's
All
great.
right. You were about to say your score for the Seahawks Rams game.
Okay. So
I didn't even hear her, by the way, coming in.
Yeah.
I just looked to my right. I was like, oh my god.
I saw her like peek through the door. So I have the Seahawks winning 17-10.
17-10. Wow, really low scoring.
Yeah. Because Seahawks last playoff game, or when they played the Eagles, they're in the wild card weekend. The score was 17-9. So I feel like better defenses and stuff, and it's going to be a similar game to that, where it's you don't see a lot of scoring, but it's going to be a defensive game, like we said.
Well, all right. To finish off the Saturday, we have number 4 seed Washington football team hosting the number 5 Buccaneers, which I think that defensive line from Washington will prove to be very dangerous for the Buccaneers, but I think Buccaneers will still seal it pretty solidly.
Yeah.
Just because I do not trust the Washington offense to get much done against Buccaneers defense. So, final score. Let me think about it. I'll take Buccaneers. I think Washington will manage to get 13 points. Buccaneers will get, I want to say 28. Let's go 26. So double.
I'm going to go. I think Tampa Bay is just going to absolutely demolish Washington. I'm actually rooting for Washington, even though they're an NFC East,
Yeah,
because
same.
I don't mind Washington going far into the playoffs.
I just want Brady to be out of the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't even mind if Washington somehow gets into the Super Bowl. I know they're not going to. Like, that's almost impossible that they get into the Super Bowl, but like, I wouldn't mind if they do. But
Easy Chiefs W.
yeah, but they have no chance. That's how they played against the Eagles, because the Eagles like were obviously tanking, and Washington had so many opportunities to pull that game away, but they didn't. I feel like it's more embarrassing on the Washington football team to not put up points against the Eagles than it is for the Eagles to be tanking for that game, that obviously. But I have the Bucks winning 38-17.
All right. I can see that, yeah. I just feel like Buccaneers will kind of settle with kicking a lot of field goals, just because the defensive line will come up clutch. You know, kind of like a bend but don't break sort of situation. But, you know, there'll be a couple breakout touchdowns, of course, from Buccaneers. Like, it's a high-powered offense. Yeah, I think Brady will struggle under pressure a little bit. To start the day on Sunday, we have Titans number 4 versus Ravens number 5. This is kind of a flip-flop from last year, where Ravens were coming in super hot and then all of a sudden get upset in the divisional round, though, by the Titans, whereas it's kind of the other way. In the wild card round, we have Titans coming in super hot with Derrick Henry at the forefront, kind of an MVP candidate there, with Ravens trying to, you know, get some revenge and show everyone that they're still not out of it, despite being, you know, overlooked. So who you got?
I got the Titans over the Ravens. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I say it's going to be 35-32. Titans win.
Ooh.
Barely. It's gonna be. I feel like it's going to be one of the more exciting games of this weekend.
I agree. I feel like Titans, very momentum-based team. And I feel like when Ravens play against a momentum-based team, they can keep up. If you look at like the Browns versus Ravens game, it was very high scoring, very like momentum based. And I feel like Ravens will be able to kind of like hop on that energy and be able to just match it. I don't know. That's the way I see it. Ravens just looks like on the offensive side have looked a lot better than they did to start the year, so I think they can keep up in that way. But my key is that the Ravens defense is just so much better than the Titans defense. And that's what I think it comes down to. I actually have the Ravens.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it would still be close if they managed to get that victory. And Ravens, let's go. I'll match you with the 35 for the Titans, but I'll go 37 for the Ravens.
Dang. I guess both high scoring games. Oh, that makes it exciting now.
Let's see. Saints versus Bears. Saints are number 2. Bears are kind of a fake playoff team at number 7. Complete opposite to the AFC, whereas like, the whole playoff expansion didn't really work out in the NFC because Bears, an 8-8 team, managed to get in through it. Whereas Colts, an 11-5 team on the AFC, managed to get through, and they do deserve to be in the playoffs, I would say. So expansion worked on one side rather than the other. So
Yeah.
I definitely have the Saints. Bears defense might give them a little bit of issues. I could see. I don't think Saints will have a problem against that Bears offense, though. Even though David Montgomery has been pretty good, I don't think Saints will have much of an issue. So let's go Saints 28, Bears 20.
I also agree with you. The Saints are going to beat the Bears, and the only way that the Bears can keep close is with Allen Robertson and David Montgomery. I think they can lead the Bears down the field and make them score a few points. I think the only reason why the NFC conference didn't really work out with the expansion is because all of the teams just played like shit. So that's where you're seeing an 8-8 team come in, which is kind of disappointing because they have so many good teams in there that didn't play up to the potential. I think the score is going to be 30 Saints and 16 Bears.
Wait, what? What did you say?
30-16 Saints.
30-16. Wow.
Yeah. Got an odd number there, but
No, like I can see it, I guess. It's just quite ambitious.
yeah. I just feel like the Saints are a way better team than the Bears, and I feel like they're going to run away with it.
And then we've got Steelers, number 3, resting their players despite not really ending the season that hot, versus the Browns, who kind of have it figured out, but because of a lot of COVID complications, they haven't really been able to practice or play their last game with, the way they want to in order to really figure out what their playoff strategy is and work with what they need to work with. It'll be an interesting game to see, like how the Browns are able to fare against the Steelers, who are well rested. I got the Steelers personally, just because I may have had the Browns if all these complications didn't arise. It's just unfortunate. Steelers will make its divisional round, and I don't think they'll win their divisional round game, just because I feel like the AFC is that stacked right now. So
Did you say the score?
no, I didn't. Let's go 21-14.
I like that score.
I feel like it'll be a kind of bland game, like kind of underwhelming, sort of like how the Washington Eagles game went down. Yeah, I feel like both defenses will be really powered up, whereas both offenses will kind of just fall short of the mark.
Yeah.
But in the end, superior coaching from Mike Tomlin will get the Steelers through.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to say Cleveland Browns is going to win this game. It's going to be a very close game, I feel. And this is like the upset I feel that I'm going to pick. I want to try to pick at least one upset for each weekend because I feel like there is always an upset.
Interesting.
Each playoff game. And
that means for the Super Bowl, you have to choose an upset because that's the only game.
Wow, okay, I didn't think of that. maybe up until that point because I want to make it a little interesting, and maybe I'll make it a little interesting during the Super Bowl, but this is the only like upset that I could actually see this weekend. I guess Baltimore Ravens. Well, I guess I didn't pick one. Never mind. I don't know what I was thinking there. But yeah, this is the only one that I can actually see happening with the rest of the games, or comparatively to the rest of the games. Steelers haven't been playing well, even though the Browns barely beat them week 17, even though the Steelers are sitting most of their players. I just feel like Browns have the potential to actually point away with this game. I feel the score is going to be 24-21. Browns win. So super close.
24-21.
Yeah, it's going to be, I agree, not as entertaining, but it's going to come down to the wire. And I just really dislike the Steelers. And if they do win, they're not going to get 4. They're going to lose next week as well. So, yeah.
All right, so we have 3 disputes: Colts, Bills, Ravens, Titans, and Steelers, Browns. There you have it. We'll see you next week. See if we're right. See if we're not.
It's been an interesting fantasy year. And yeah, you guys, love you.